Saying that I was content with my husband, Nick, would be an immense understatement. I had married the love of my life, and even my mother-in-law, who lived with us, was wonderful. Despite Nick's busy schedule as a manager, he always made time for me, and my relationship with my mother-in-law was smooth. One day, while discussing inheritance matters with my mother-in-law, I mentioned that I had received my parents' shares, which amounted to a significant sum. Her reaction was unexpected. She grew silent and questioned why I wanted it so early. I explained it was Nick's wish for me to have it now. This revelation seemed to disturb her, and she suggested I review our prenuptial agreement. Confused, I confronted Nick, who tried to brush off the situation. However, when I pressed him further, his demeanor shifted, and I sensed a hint of panic in his voice. Determined to unravel the truth, I sought an explanation from my mother-in-law. Reluctantly, she confessed that she had discovered documents in Nick's home office outlining a prenup that significantly favored him, contrary to what I had signed. Shocked, I confronted Nick, who promised to show me the prenup the next day. But when he failed to produce it, my suspicions deepened. During his absence on a business trip, I couldn't shake off my suspicions. Driven by a desire for clarity, I decided to search his office discreetly. After days of searching, I finally found our prenuptial agreement hidden away, raising more questions than answers. Rage coursed through me as I pored over the document. According to this new version of our prenup, most of my properties would be his in the event of a divorce. I was utterly incredulous. The prenup I had signed with Nick, the one my lawyer and I had carefully reviewed, was nothing like this. It had outlined fair terms, where we retained rights to our personal properties and shares. Nick had seemed completely fine with it. I couldn't fathom how he had orchestrated this deceit behind my back. I immediately called my lawyer from back then, hoping for a solution. However, he seemed as clueless as I was, leaving me feeling utterly hopeless. Frustration and stress consumed me. Aimlessly pacing around the office, I stumbled upon a necklace in one of the drawers, unmistakably Molly's, a custom design I had gifted her for her birthday. My heart plummeted. Trying not to jump to conclusions, I called her. She explained she was visiting her parents and wouldn't be back for 2 days. I hung up and rushed to her house, my dread escalating as I saw Nick's shoes next to hers at the door. Inside, I confronted Molly, my voice laced with fury, demanding Nick to reveal himself. Both of them stood before me, guilt etched across their faces. They began to apologize, but their insincerity was palpable. My husband and my best friend desperately spun excuses, their lies struggling to find any semblance of believability. I had waited until their feeble attempts to cover up their betrayal ceased. Holding the prenuptial agreement in my trembling hands, I confronted them. I demanded an explanation from Nick, his initial shock quickly transforming into composed denial. He insisted that the document I held was the original one. Refusing to be deceived again, I stood my ground, threatening legal action against him for altering the prenup. Nick scoffed, dismissing my threats, claiming there was no proof of the fabricated version. Realizing I needed legal expertise, I resolved to find a knowledgeable attorney to fight back. My gaze shifted to Molly, who attempted to leave discreetly. I erupted in fury, accusing her of betrayal. In a moment of satisfaction, I slapped Nick hard. But he retaliated, blaming me for his deceitful plans. He asserted he intended to divorce me while preserving my feelings by keeping everything else intact. His manipulative words twisted the truth, making me question my own judgment. The betrayal cut deep. These were two of the people I trusted most, and their collusion left me feeling nauseous. As I processed the shock, Molly's son's cries echoed from another room. Dread consumed me as I confronted Molly, asking if Nick was the baby's father. Neither of them could meet my eyes, confirming my worst fears. A year ago, when Molly announced her pregnancy, I had supported her unconditionally. Nick had been there for her too, seemingly out of kindness. Now the pieces fell into place, revealing a devastating truth. Returning home, uncontrollable tears welled up. I found solace in the embrace of my mother-in-law, who stood by me as I poured out my heart. Sharing the entire ordeal with her, I realized the depth of the betrayal. I contemplated whether delving into the prenup had been worth it. Unearthing this web of deceit had shattered my world, leaving me questioning everything. I find myself utterly lost, unsure of how to proceed or whom to trust. It has become incredibly difficult to place my faith in people. I am immensely thankful for the suggestions and advice many of you have given me. Nick didn't return home for an entire week, and truthfully, it was probably for the best. Both my mother-in-law and I were prepared to kick him out if he did. Every day, I grew more restless, haunted by thoughts of the prenuptial agreement. Taking your advice to heart, I reached out to a lawyer who happened to be Molly's ex and one of the most promising up-and-coming attorneys I knew. He hadn't been available when we drafted the prenup, or I certainly would have chosen him. The lawyer explained the complexities of the situation, suggesting various ways to resolve it. Ultimately, he proposed that convincing Nick to nullify the prenup was the best course of action. However, when I confronted Nick in his office, his response was unexpected. He professed his love for Molly and his desire to provide for their child. I was dumbfounded. If he cared so deeply for them, why did he need my money? My persistence in questioning him only led to threats. He even went as far as to threaten my job, exploiting his connections with my boss, who happened to be his close friend. In that moment, it was as if I didn't recognize him anymore. He had transformed into someone manipulative and cunning. I realized that divorcing him would mean losing most of my property, a prospect that left me feeling trapped. While I wasn't well versed in the legal intricacies, my lawyer mentioned that the agreement might be considered invalid if the property division was excessively unfair. Yet the agreement specified most of my properties, albeit with a certain entitlement for me. Despite this, it still felt profoundly unjust, even if it might appear ordinary in a courtroom setting. For now, I chose to back down, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. Several days later, I received a call from Nick's secretary requesting a meeting. We met at a cafe where she wasted no time getting to the point. Nick was involved with my boss, and he had threatened me using her as leverage. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. Her unwarranted hostility towards me finally made sense. It was incomprehensible to believe that he was juggling multiple relationships simultaneously. Fortunately, the secretary provided me with photos as evidence of their secret affair. Armed with proof, I confronted Nick immediately. His face paled, sweat beading on his forehead. He lashed out, blaming me for ruining his life. But I cut him off, threatening to show the photos to Molly unless he agreed to modify the prenuptial agreement. Faced with no other choice, he begrudgingly complied, though his fury was palpable. In the following week, we met to revise our prenup agreement. Nick seethed with anger throughout the process, his rage evident to anyone present. When Molly saw her ex with me, she seemed genuinely surprised. Clearly, she hadn't anticipated seeing him after breaking things off upon learning about her pregnancy. After the prenup was successfully modified, I wasted no time. I filed for divorce, ending the toxic relationship that had left me broken and betrayed. Thank you, everyone, for your supportive messages. I want to share an update with you all. I've purchased an apartment and regained ownership of all my properties. The alimony was eliminated, a decision we both agreed upon. Most importantly, I've finally separated from Nick, and it feels liberating. He was involved with Molly for a while, but their relationship soared after she discovered him with my boss. In the aftermath, I resigned from my job and found a better position at a different company. On a personal note, I've started a relationship with my lawyer, Molly, and things are going quite well. It seems that karma works its magic after all. Regarding my relationship with Chris's children, Eric, 17, and Alice, 15, it has always been respectful and caring. While they refer to me as their mother figure to others, they prefer not to use the title mom when we talk privately or in front of other relatives. I've never insisted on the label, valuing our bond more than a title. However, This became an issue with my mother-in-law. She persistently pressured me, believing I should be called Mom by the kids. Despite my attempts to explain the distinction between being a mother figure and the title itself, she continued to push the matter aggressively. In a recent confrontation, my husband stood up for me, asserting that his mother's behavior amounted to harassment. I supported him and asked her to respect the children's choice in how they address me. Unfortunately, this stance led to criticism from other family members, friends, and even some acquaintances who believe we should comply with my mother-in-law's wishes to maintain family harmony. Am I in the wrong for not insisting that my stepchildren call me Mom, and for not agreeing with my mother-in-law's demands? I can't believe your mother-in-law is suggesting that you should force your stepchildren into a specific parental relationship dynamic. It's almost laughable how she thinks you should have adopted them immediately after marriage and changed their last names to yours. The sarcasm aside, your approach is truly commendable. The way your stepchildren address you doesn't diminish the wonderful relationship you've built with them. I wonder if your mother-in-law's reaction stems from a fear that your lack of insistence on the title means you aren't attached to the kids. However, it's crucial to understand that the children's opinions matter most. If they want to call you Mom, eventually they will, and if not, that's perfectly fine. By not pressuring them while offering unconditional love, you're doing the best thing for your relationship. You aren't their biological mother, so pushing them to address you a certain way isn't your place. The kids should have the freedom to express their preferences within the boundaries set by you and their father. If they choose to call you Mom, it should be their decision. If they prefer using your first name, that should be respected too. Frankly, it's quite odd for your mother-in-law to get so worked up about this, especially after a decade into the marriage. I wonder if there might be something else going on with her health or emotions. Regardless, you're definitely not in the wrong here. I'm 26 years old, and I'm pregnant with my first child. My husband, Harry, and I are thrilled about it. We recently announced our pregnancy during a family party. Most people were excited for us, except for my sister-in-law, Jonah. She's 34 years old and happens to be best friends with my husband's ex-wife, Elisa. Elisa and Harry had a short-lived marriage in their early 20s, and it ended due to her infidelity. I met Harry almost 3 years after his divorce, and we hit it off instantly. We're now happily married and expecting our first child. However, Jonah believes that I somehow stole her brother away from Elisa, and that Harry still has feelings for his ex. Jonah frequently brings up Elisa in conversations with me, usually when Harry isn't around. While it was initially a minor annoyance, her comments escalated after I announced my pregnancy. She started suggesting that I should name our baby Elisa if it's a girl, which really bothered me. One evening, at a party celebrating Joanna and Theo's 5th wedding anniversary, she mentioned the Elisa name suggestion again. I lost my patience and publicly revealed something no one else knew. I loudly responded to Jonah, asking her if she wanted me to name my child after her high school sweetheart, Marcus, like she named her own son. Everyone at the party was shocked, including her husband Theo, who looked stunned. I felt bad about hurting him, but I couldn't tolerate Joanna anymore. Harry and I left the party immediately without waiting to see the aftermath. I felt awful afterward, especially when Harry supported me, as he felt I did the right thing. However, his mother called and criticized me for my outburst, saying that I should apologize to Jonah and claim it was a joke. I was already upset with Jonah's comments, and Harry's mother's call made things worse. I declined to apologize and told her to pay attention to what her daughter says to others instead. She also called Harry, and they argued about the situation. She insisted she wouldn't see Harry unless we apologized to Joanna and Theo. Harry is firm about not apologizing, and I feel terrible because I know how much he values his family, and now they're not speaking to him because of what I said. I might have overreacted a little, and maybe I should just apologize and get this over with before it goes any further. What if Theo leaves Jonah? Did I ruin their marriage? Should I apologize, or am I right here? I really don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't want to see Harry upset, but I also don't think Joanna deserves my apology. Am I the a-hole here? They're getting a divorce now. Apparently, since I refused to back down from what I said, John had to come clean about what had happened, as Theo wouldn't drop it. Harry's mother called us to let us know that this was all our fault and that we had ruined Jonah's life. I'm not sure how it's my fault, since I was not the one who named her son after her high school ex. But sure, whatever. I'd suggest we just apologize, but Harry said that he would rather not speak to his mother and sister than apologize for doing the right thing. Gosh, I really couldn't have asked for a better husband. I do feel bad that he's giving up contact with his family for my sake, but I'm glad that he's on the right side of things. It's been a few days since Theo decided to leave Jonah, and she's been calling us nonstop, mostly Harry, saying that he needs to leave me, and that I'm going to ruin his life. She even went to the extent of saying that Elisa is still willing to take him back, and that she'll make sure that we're never happy together if he decides to stay with me. At this point, we've decided to go no contact with them. I've already blocked her and her mother from all my social media accounts, and Harry's doing the same. He doesn't even look upset anymore, just outraged that his mother and sister are being this crazy and awful. I know there hasn't been an update for really long, but that's because of all the craziness that we've had to deal with over the past few weeks. So to fill you guys in real quick, Theo decided to file for divorce and seek full custody of their son. He moved out within a few days of their marriage anniversary and has been living with one of his friends. We've managed to keep in touch, and I even apologized to him for whatever happened. But he ended up thanking me for bringing up the truth. Apparently, he'd always suspected that the name Marcus had meant something to her since she had gone ballistic when he dared to even suggest another name and even threatened to leave him over this. That's why he had no option but to let her name their son Marcus. But now